Hi guys, how we doing? Welcome back to the Three Hammers podcast. Here as always with Luke and joined by a very, very special guest today. Not on the video, it's just the audio. Joining us by phone, we've got Graeme Howlett from Knees Up Mother Brown. How we doing, lads? You alright?
Yeah, I'm very good. Very good, guys. Thanks for having us on.
Whenever we have a guest on, Graeme, we let them take like the first sort of 5-10 minutes. Introduce yourself, talk about what the website is about. I'm sure any West Ham fan that doesn't know Knees Up Mother Brown is probably not a West Ham fan, but off you go, mate.
So I'm the editor of Knees Up Mother Brown. The site's been running for, 20 years now, an awful long time. And we're still there, still hanging in. Obviously, there's an awful lot more competition out there these days and a lot more platforms for fans to get their message across on, which is a good thing. But yeah, we are KUMB is one of the originals, one of the longest running football websites on the web, I think, full stop. But yeah, it's been a long journey. It's been a long time.
It's a fantastic site, it really is. Like Luke says there, I'm sure if nearly every West Ham fan, I'm sure, knows the site. I've been going on there for years and years. It's the first place I go to in the morning for news, for West Ham news. You know, it's just such a great resource for news and opinions from West Ham fans. The
forums as well.
Thanks.
The forums, some of the best forums for West Ham fans. Even like you've got all the platforms, YouTube, Twitter, etc., etc. But I think the Knees Up Mother Brown forums are definitely one of the best interactions of fans. No, I know you're on them more than me, Paul, but.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you say, I think it's safe to say it's easily the biggest. I'd say the biggest sort of resource for West Ham fans. You know, it's great that we've got all the new media sort of stuff like YouTube. Obviously, like ourselves, we're doing this, but I still think everyone likes to come back, and it's just that I don't know. It's just the interaction with other people that you get on there that you don't get through platforms like YouTube, and you know, it's a great site.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, so it's kind of it says. I think the differences between, you know, kind of forums and social media is that you've got kind of an ongoing resource that you can build upon with forums. It's searchable, which is obviously one of the big issues with something like Facebook or Twitter. If you want to find reference to a row you might have had with someone 9 months ago, when you're looking to back up an argument, you're gonna be very, very hard pushed to find it on Facebook. Not the case on forums, but so obviously it's tough. I think any new forums starting now would probably have their work cut out, given how readily available social media is. But you know, some of us obviously got in there ahead of the cut, and I think we've been on online longer than Facebook and Twitter now. So it goes to show how old we are.
So, what inspired you to start, Graeme? Just before we move on to any West Ham stuff, like what inspired you to start it in the first place?
The main idea, the main thrust of getting into it was pretty much just having something to do and having a career. I was, when I started, let's think. So I was probably, I mean, you guys are what, your early 30s, I think now.
Yeah.
So I'm probably 3 or 4 years younger than you when I started, and I'd been pretty much just bumming from job to job. Looking to kind of get into, something, and I had a bit of experience of program as a kid. I was very, very lucky when I was at school. This was when the government were putting an awful lot of money into new IT schemes and programming. I was at comprehensive school between 1980 and 1985, which obviously was when we had huge push from the government in terms of putting computers in schools, Commodore PETs. Well, you probably never heard of these, but this is what I used to use, and BBC microcomputers. But what it did give my generation was an extraordinary, huge push in terms of getting involved in development and computing and programming. So it was something that I'd done at school and sort of messed around with at home as a kid. Again, we were, that first generation of teenagers that had computers at home. So I'd messed around with programming, and it got to that stage, and I was kind of looking for something to get into. By that point, I sort of realised I wasn't going to make it as a professional footballer or a singer. So it was time to try and find something realistic, to do with my time. And so I kind of combined my two loves really, which was football and sort of program. Well, it's not really a love, but it's something I was pretty good at. So combined the two, and at the time, I mean, this was sort of early '97, I suppose. So the internet was fairly, the whole World Wide Web was a fairly new phenomenon. It had only been, I'm trying to think when I think West Ham's official website went live a year before in '96. So even that was fairly new. So everything was brand new, and the idea behind it really was just to try and produce an electronic version of Hollah. I was a big fan of what Gary and the team did there. So originally it was purely just an exercise in setting up, like an electronic version of the fanzine, which is why if you go back on archive.org, which is, you've got the entire web searchable on there going back 20, 30 years or whatever. You look at the very earliest incantations of KUMB, you can see it's just essentially a fanzine. There's a bit of news on there, and it's basically just fans ranting, But it was a good business model, and to be fair, it's the same model that we adhere to now. It's essentially just a voice box for people to go and express their concerns, thoughts, wishes, whatever regarding the football team. And it's just a little bit bigger than it was back then. I think our first week online, we had 26 hits, as they were called then, 26 visits, and I was absolutely over the moon that 26 people had come on to the site to see what had been written. So obviously it's mushroomed a little bit since then. We're sort of serving between 3 to 5 million pages every month now to around 250,000 visitors. But it's so I've been extremely fortunate in that I've been one of those people who's lucky enough to kind of work in an area in something that I'm interested in. So very, very lucky. But that's kind of a brief point.
Met some amazing people from it as well, Graeme. Obviously, before we went live, you was talking about interviewing Billy Barnes, etc., people like that. It must be amazing for a fan of your generation to meet Billy. Like, I would love to meet Billy, and I never really see him play. But probably for someone like yourself, I don't know, he's like probably your hero, wasn't he?
That era very much. I was growing up. I mean, my first game was 1976, so it was all that lot. Billy Barnes, Trevor, Brooking, Frankie Lampard, the real Frankie Lampard. All those guys, like the real sort of icons even to this day. But I mean, my icon as a kid growing up was Trevor Brooking. Absolutely, no doubt whatsoever. He was the one that I wanted to emulate. My first replica shirt was absolutely, very much so. And again, I was extremely fortunate as a kid to play with him as a 9-year-old. This is something I remember speaking to him about this many years later. But back then, a lot of the pro footballers would go and earn a bit of extra cash in the summer, doing tutoring at university schools. Like these holiday clubs that a lot of kids go on these days. But these were actually run by pro footballers, and so we did a week at it was Colchester University. I think we were 9 or 10, and it was a summer program. And Trevor Brooking was the main guest there. And I'll never forget, he was asking us all to shoot, just take a shot, and he rolled this ball into me. I've hit this ball and it's gone like a rocket into the top corner. I don't think I've ever hit a ball as cleanly again. And he sort of said something like, "Well done, son," something like that. But, it kind of made my day. And it's a shame that you don't see that anymore. But, it's very much so. But I was very, very fortunate to meet Trevor again many years later when he was working at Sport for England. And just to qualify what you said there, actually, Luke, about him being a gentleman, this is a good example. I'd initially, I think we've been running KUMB 2 or 3 years. This was my first big interview. We'd arranged to go to Sport England, where Brooking was working at the time, and I think I'd booked an hour slot. Anyway, what we did, again, what we've pretty much done with every interview since, is just collate questions from like the forum readers and other fans and take them to those people. So I've gone in with a big list of questions. We've done the first hour. Trevor's looked at me and he said, you've got more questions to go, haven't you? And I'm like, well, yeah, but I appreciate we've only got an hour. And he said to me, no, that's fine. We're okay. We can carry on for a bit longer. So another hour goes by. And he says, you've still got some more, haven't you? So I'm like, yeah, I have. But, again, I appreciate that you've given us more time, et cetera, et cetera. And at this point, he calls his secretary and he says, whatever her name was, can you cancel my appointments for the rest of the day?
Oh, that's amazing.
In the end, we were in there for, I think it was about 3 hours, 15 minutes. He wouldn't let me go until I'd asked every one of the questions that the fans had put forward. And you know, as I always say, if anyone asks, he is my absolute idol.
I mean,
even to this day, and I'm 48 years old. You know, I still think he's a wonderful player,
really
and a wonderful ambassador.
I've had the pleasure of meeting him a few times myself. One of my first ever jobs was working over West Ham as a porter, and I was actually working in the directors' lounge. So you know, you see quite a lot of people in there, and he was one person that he always had time for you. You know, he genuinely would. He would stand there and have a conversation, and you didn't feel like he was doing it because he had to. He was just genuine. You know, really, really, really nice bloke. As Luke says, absolute gentleman.
I think that is generally, genuinely how he is. He has got time for everyone.
You can't fake that. You can't.
No, not at all.
You get found out.
So we're very. Yeah, absolutely. And I think as a club, we're very lucky that, as I said, he's an ambassador for us, and long may that be the case.
Like you say, it is a shame because kids nowadays, or even for people like ourselves, you couldn't get anywhere near a footballer for that long now. Literally, it would be half hour, that's your time stop, boom, you're gone.
It's true. I mean,
you can't even wait outside and get an autograph now. Like, kids can't really even do that as such now.
Did you see there was a video? Video floating around yesterday or the day before with Declan Rice actually taking the time to stop and get out of the car and give a young lad a pair of football boots he signed. It's great to see that. And what I hope is that obviously he's still a young player. If he does progress and he does end up, you know, pretty much making it, you hope that he'll keep that with him. Do you know what I mean? You hope that he'll keep that side of him.
Yeah, that was really good to see. And, you know, I do kind of fear a little bit for West Ham in the sense that those kind of people are not really at the club anymore. I'm thinking of like your Trevor Brookings, your Tony Carrs, people like that who would ensure that, you know, you would always behave in a certain manner if you're representing the club. I thought that was absolutely fantastic to see, and full marks to Declan and whoever is guiding him, you know, in terms of the way he's relating to fans. It's horrible. I mean, I used to come out of the press room at the Bowling and would walk around the front, and there'd be kids, you know, leaning through the iron bars trying to get autographs. You know, it's not so many years ago that, you know, you could go down to Chadwell Heath every day, just rock up, going. Yeah, exactly. You'll remember this. So you could go and stand in the car park, right? You remember, and at the end, all the players would come out, and you could stand there for ages.
Yeah, no, mate. I used to go down Chadwell Heath. I've got photos. Carrick, Moncur, Ian Wright, all that sort of era. You know, that 98, 99 era. Yeah, great times. It was great as a kid to go down there, watch a training session, then just get all your autographs. I do remember Paolo Di Canio giving me the up yours though one time though. That was fun. That was quite upsetting because he is my hero, Paolo. But yeah, I do remember him doing that one time.
Yeah, I suppose that's the thing. They're all fallible at the end of the day. You know, I suppose if he's had a bad session, but it was so good. I mean, I love looking at those old photos from the 60s and 70s where you got Jeff Hurst and Bobby Moore and the kids. You can see that, you know, they're just flocking round them, idolising them. It's brilliant. But, you know, there you go. This is modern football.
Shame. That's it, mate. Moving on to modern football, guys. Swansea. Boring. That's all I can. What do you rate? What was your views? Start with Paul. Yeah,
I mean, I unfortunately, due to work, I only caught the first half hour and then just the highlights on Match of the Day. To be fair, I say the highlights, there weren't that many of them. The first half hour, there wasn't much going on, yeah. But no, like I say, unfortunately, I didn't get to see the whole game. All I had really gone was the highlights and obviously reading people's reviews of the game and stuff, and it didn't sound great, let's put it that way. It's great, regardless of what happened. It's obviously great to get the win. It's great to get the 3 points. But yeah, it didn't sound good, and I wish it was anybody else apart from Sacco.
Your mate
scored.
Sacco, wasn't it? Yeah. Your mate Sacco scored. Graeme, what do you make of it, mate?
Yeah, it was a tough watch, wasn't it, that game? And like Paul, I'm not there at the moment. I'm away from the ground this season, so I watched it on telly too. So I feel for the poor buggers who had to trek all the way up there and stand in those horrendous queues, etc. And you know,
Lee was actually over from Belarus for that game.
Was he really?
Yeah, he was coming over.
He picked a cracker.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just dreadful. I mean, it reminded me of. It was kind of quite soul destroying, and it reminded me of a game that we played home to Stoke 11 or 12 years ago, I think it was. We lost 1-0 at home, and it was an absolutely dreadful performance. It was there was absolutely nothing whatsoever to get excited by. At least last weekend we had the goal, albeit in the very last minute. It was awful, and it's been like that pretty much. I want to be careful here because I'm always being accused of being negative on social media, so I don't want to go down that route too much. Oh right, we should find
we can meet in the middle.
An unhappy medium, yeah. It was awful, and a lot of the football has been pretty poor. But Bilic, as he does in these situations, somehow managed to eke out a win. He's done it time and time again. Did it, at Tottenham last year. Several other occasions when it's been at that point of a must-win game. We've got to win, that we take the points here, and he's done it. In terms of how we did it, I'm not quite sure. I don't think that all the players were particularly fit, were they? Antonio certainly didn't look like he was running on full gas. But we got there in the end, and I think that Bilic also has a bit of a selection issue now in terms of who to play on the left side. Because that's 2 games in a row that King Arthur's come in and changed the game.
For me, Masuaku has to start.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Arthur, mate. I think he starts ahead of Anatovic for me at the minute.
So you'd play him on the left wing?
Yeah,
ahead of Creswell.
Yeah, I'd go left wing. I think him and Antonio, left and right, could be ruthless with the pace.
I think we've been saying it for a while, to be honest. I think a lot of people have been saying it. He looks more like a winger than he does a fullback. He's very, very good going forward. I wouldn't mind seeing that at all. I'm still unsure. Cresswell's done better the last couple of weeks. He has done better, but I'm still, since his injury, he's not the same player. He really ain't.
No. I think the only issue you've got with Masuaku, though, is that although he looks fine going forward defensively, there are still several questions. But yeah, I mean, the only issue I see with, I agree. I think he looks good. I think he could do a job on the left wing. The issue you've got there, of course, is that we've just paid 24 million for someone who plays in that position. And if Bilic doesn't play him, the fans might not be arguing, but I imagine there'll be someone in the boardroom who's not particularly happy. Here's one for you. Forgotten man, Sam Byram. Could he do a job on the right?
Yeah, I mean, I was actually just about to mention, it's worth remembering that Masuaku's younger than Byram, not by much, but he's still a very young lad. I think it's really unfortunate for Sam. Obviously, we signed Zabaleta. We did need an experienced right back to come in, but that's really just meant that he's got no chance of getting a look in now.
Exactly. This is the thing, and a lot of people have said to me, especially on the forum, that it's going to be wonderful working with Zabaleta, all that experience he'll pick up. My point always is, how is he going to learn anything if he's not playing? I think if Antonio's not fit, Ayew perhaps not 100%. I wouldn't mind seeing Byram giving a little run out on the right. I think last year we saw going forward, he actually looked like he had. I think he played for Leeds quite a bit, didn't he, on the right side of midfield, or as an attacking fullback?
Midfielder for Leeds, yeah.
Was he? Yeah. So, there is that option. We've got options, but the problem is we've got a lot of options in certain positions and not so many in others. But that's going away from the main.
Speaking. Sorry, I was just. Yeah. Hello.
Yeah, go on, Paul.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, speaking of the left wing, what do you make of Hernandez at the moment, Graeme?
Well,
that was a big breath. That was.
It's not ideal, is it? The guy's clearly been brought in to play, a central role. And now we've got this dilemma where we have 2 players, probably for the first time in his career at West Ham. Andy Carroll's gone on a run of being fit. And so we've got this, we've probably got this selection dilemma that Bilic might not have really expected, in that they're both fully fit and raring to go. To me, he plays down the centre. He doesn't play at all. I'm not a fan of putting square pegs in round holes. To me, you play your players in their best position. I think look. Let's go back to England. I mean, the archetypal argument is the whole. You remember when we had Gerrard and Lampard? There was always that argument they couldn't play together. Gerrard used to get shunted out on left wing, etc., and so on. I think that's a dilemma that Bilic has got here. But to me, he should be playing his best players in his best position. That's either Carroll or Hernandez, unless you're going to change the system. But as we know, we've struggled really badly playing 4 at the back generally. Yeah. So that's pretty much why it's changing. But no, to me, I think if you brought him to play centrally, that's where he should play.
What about Sacco and Hernandez? Would you go with that if we could play a 4-4-2? Do you think that would work? Or what are your views on Sacco anyway?
Well, this is a player that less than a month ago was trying to force a move to another club. This is a player that's been a complete pain in the arse since he's been here. This is a player that is incredibly infuriating, I would imagine, if you're a manager. This is also a player, however, who knows where the net is and is probably our best goal scorer at the moment. So it's a difficult dilemma. Do we... Perhaps 30, 40 years ago, we might have said, John Lyle in charge, he probably would have said, if you don't want to play for the club, then you sit in the reserves and you stay there until you go. We don't really have that luxury these days, do we? I think he's a great player.
I like that he hustles defenders. That's what one thing he does do. He comes on and he's on them defenders.
He's a grafter. He's a grafter. He works hard. And I think we saw that first half of Bilic's first season when he and...
Valencia,
I nearly forgot his name. Valencia were tearing teams apart together up front. The movement was superb, the energy. Obviously, you don't get that with Carroll. We saw that the other day when he came on after 20 minutes and the game went against Tottenham. You don't get that movement. So, I like him, but I don't know. Would I play him? I probably wouldn't play him if I was the manager, but... I haven't got millions of pounds riding on it, so it's a tough one, isn't it? It's a real difficult situation.
Someone who has had a lot of criticism, before I go on to the positive, Andre Ayew, mate, he has had loads of criticism this week. People saying that he's the new Bar Morte and things like that. What do you make of him? What do you make of Ayew?
I think he's a good player. I think he's fun. It's a real strange one, considering how much money we spent on him. I think if he left tomorrow, a lot of people wouldn't even notice he's not here. It's a strange situation. Yet, he's come on and he's changed games. Huddersfield brought him on, changed the game when the fans were booing the substitution.
Controversially, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's the second time. They did it again the last week, didn't they? Against Swansea. It's twice that I pointed this out on social media. Twice Bilic has made changes that proved instrumental in winning 3 points. Both times he's been booed. But I use a funny one. I've never seen a striker as deadly from 3 yards as Ayew. He doesn't miss a lot from 3 yards, does he? And he must have got 90% of his goals in there. I'd like to see that stat compared to Hernandez's. But frustrating. Doesn't seem. When he was in France, I thought he was an absolutely fantastic player. Yeah.
I think that's a good word, actually, frustrating. That's a good word.
It's difficult. There's a player there, right? You can see there's a player there, but we just don't seem to be able to get the best out of him. Whether that's Bilic and his methods, I don't know. But there clearly is a quality player there. We need to improve what we're getting.
It seems to be the same sort of thing Swansea fans used to say about him as well. That he's a fantastic player if you can find his position. If you can find where to play him, he's a fantastic player, and he is a good player. He's a goal scorer.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We seem to have just completely overloaded with left-sided players this year. It's a strange one. I don't really understand it. I don't know what the original plan was, where everyone was going to play.
It's a real problem. I think that again, this is the second summer in a row where we're left, questioning the entire recruitment policy. I think if we looked last year, we brought 13 players in. And I think nearly all of them have gone already within a year. It's absolutely phenomenal, the turnover. And this year, again, you had David Sullivan in the summer admitting that there was no sort of cogent long-term policy. It was all very much a short-term activity. The H-List, whose work we reproduced on KUMB, picked up on this very early when he was looking at those 4 key signings, Hart, Zabaleta, Hernandez and Arnautovic. They're all sort of late 20s, early 30s. There's no long-term policy. You look at Tottenham, they're going out buying players at 22, 23, building for the future. And to be fair to him, David Sullivan did concede that when challenged. But it just does make you wonder what our transfer policy is. It all seems very sort of ad hoc. It's like fill this hole now, and there's no real sort of long-term planning. And you know, and again, as H-List I think said recently in another one of his blogs, does anyone really know what team Bilic is trying to put out there? What system is he playing?
What's the identity as well?
Absolutely. Yeah. There really is no clear, it's a good word. There is no clear identity or shape to that team. You couldn't say they play in a certain way. Like with Sam Allardyce, you could say Sam team, you know, they're going to play it around at the back for 5 or 6 passes and then punt it long into the opposite, you know, corner. You don't know. It's very difficult. It's very strange. So, what do you think? And what are your guys' thoughts on Bilic?
There's nothing you can say that we're specifically good at. Like under Allardyce, like say it was, okay, they've got to be good at set pieces.
Yeah.
Under Zola, we had quite a good attacking flair and stuff.
Yeah.
But under Slav, I don't know. What are we good at under Slav?
No, it's a funny one. I mean, we talk about him every week, and it's for me, I was saying pretty much the end of last season, I was saying it's time for him to go because I couldn't see how things were going to change coming into this year. And then we ended up beating Tottenham, and then, you know, all the optimism came back, and then in the off season, you always seem to build up that hope again anyway. Yeah. But nothing really has changed this year. And I think, again, we speak about it all the time. The worst thing for that is the fact that they've let him run into his last year of his contract. And I think that's an absolute disaster for any manager. I don't think that should ever be allowed to happen because the manager's playing for his job. He's not going to have any long-term plans. Like you say, he's just going to be looking at the next game. There's the pressure on it. The players are going to be thinking, well, if he's not going to be here next year anyway, does it really matter? I just think it was a really, really bad situation for him to go into this season without knowing if he's going to be here the year after. But then saying that, I don't think he's done himself any favours. Like you say, with a lack of identity, tactics, yes, he's bringing players on that have changed the game, but that means he got it wrong at the start. And again, it's things like you say, I was there for the Huddersfield game when IU came on and the crowd booed, and the frustration was the fact that it just didn't seem to make sense to take Hernandez off, put IU on, and then IU seemed to go straight into the middle anyway, and then you end up taking off Carroll 10 minutes later. Why not bring off Carroll for IU and then put Hernandez up front? I don't know. It just seemed to be no real plan to it. I don't know.
Yeah, there's almost like a desire to get Carroll on there as soon as possible, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know
why.
Where
do you stand on Slav, Graeme? What's your stance?
I'm very... I put again, going back to social media, I put a post on there the other day. Someone replied to one of my messages with Slav out. And I said, you know, since I've been running KUMB, I've had Redknapp out, I've had Roda out, I've had Pardew out, I've had Curbs out, Zola, etc., etc. Every one of them. Are we any better off 20 years on? Not really. I would love to see a manager come here, be given a 5-year contract, ring-fenced 5-year contract, regardless of what happens, and to be told to build a team for, you know, as I say, 5 years' time. The problem we've got with football these days is that there is no... it's just all about the short term. You know, no manager... What manager is... I mean, look at the squad we've got now. Look at Bilic's situation. What chance has Bilic... why should Bilic bring on players like Reece Oxford, Reece Burke, players like that, when he knows he's going to be out of... Why risk it? Why you will always go for the established player who's going to keep you in a job. That's the way it is. And until somebody is given that opportunity to be, you know, to get several years and to know they've got the opportunity, if they go down, they're not going to get sacked. You know, like Johnny Lyle, they can come back up, bring the squad up. You know, I mean, we've only got to look at our own club to show the benefit of doing that. Look at 1979-78 when we were relegated. We won the cup within 2 years with one of the greatest sides this club's ever produced. Within 6 years, we were a whisker away from winning Division 1. So, you know, it shows that if you do stick with a man, then or a manager, it can be successful. I'm not saying it always will be, but there is that. But that's the thing. Nobody's given that opportunity, and it's because money, you know, is at the root of everything in football these days. It controls it, so it's not going to happen. But I agree with you. I think it's a very, very difficult situation. It reminds me of the situation Allardyce was in 3 or 4 years ago. the final year of his contract, it was almost as if he didn't give a toss. Basically, you could see, it didn't hurt him if we lost. I wonder if Bilic is perhaps putting Hernandez out wide, just to kind of stick two fingers up to his employers. It's not a good situation, and the problem is we've got the board here who say they don't sack managers, but that's not particularly helpful. If you're not going to back the manager, if you're going to undermine the manager at every possible opportunity, then what is the point of keeping him in the job?
If you're not going to sack him, but you're not going to renew his contract at the end of the year, what is the point of keeping him?
Well, there is none. The only point of that, I think, Luke, is so they can say we don't sack managers. That's it, really.
Which is worse, in my opinion. I mean, and then, like you say, if you do end up getting into situations like that, obviously, if I'd like to think he wouldn't, but if, like you say, Slav was putting Hernandez on the wing out of spite to the owners, he's doing it in spite of the club as well, and wasting and pretty much ruining one of the best attacking players we've ever had at the club. I'm not saying, like you say, obviously we're not saying it is the case. If that is the case, he needs to be gone tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? It's just a bad situation all round. It really is.
Yeah, I wouldn't say. Let me just qualify. I wouldn't say he's that is exactly what he's doing. But I think there's an element of, well, if I do this, it doesn't matter anyway. Do you see what I mean? It's kind of if he had a 3-year contract, perhaps he would be a little bit more concerned about it. But it's a difficult situation. It's not.
Who would you like to come in? Obviously, Ancelotti has come out now and said he's taking 10 months off, whatever. Whether he would ever come to West Ham, that's a different story.
I very much doubt that.
Yeah. Well, he did say in an interview before, mate, why not West Ham?
Well,
I don't know whether you've seen it.
A lot of people have said a lot of things over the years, mate.
Yeah. But who would you want in, Graeme? At the moment, out there, who would be your ideal manager, realistic?
I think it's very difficult because the problem is whatever manager you get in, they've still got to work with our board. And I think that's proved difficult especially for Sam. Avram didn't really get a chance.
Would you like to see the ball go? I think I would now as well.
The thing is, it's tough. Again, it's a case of bet with the devil. I think that there's certainly a lot they could be doing a lot better than they are. And I don't think they help themselves sometimes. Some of the stuff that they put out in the media needs to be checked. I can imagine that Max Fitzgerald, the head of media at West Ham, is probably tearing his hair out constantly.
Karen Brady interviewed the other day with the Spurs thing as well. Just silly things like that.
But the thing is, this is the thing.
She knew what she was doing, though.
I'd love to know the motivation there. But the thing is, you look at Karen. We're talking about Karen specifically. She's been dropping clangers since she walked through the door. From the moment that she took away the season tickets from Yvonne Lyle and Ron Greenwood's wife. Yeah. Within weeks of coming in, and the stuff about West Ham and the East End being a hotbed of racism and all this, and it's just gaff after gaff. And I honestly, half the time I think she does it on purpose, just to wind West Ham fans up.
I genuinely think she does. Again, I said it last week, and it was actually a member on Knees Up Mother Brown who said it and made me think about it. But she don't like the club. She don't like the fans. She's there. It's a job. It's money. And I honestly believe she is. She's being antagonistic on purpose. She knows she's going to wind the fans up, and that's why she does it.
There's no doubt whatsoever that prior to talking to whoever she did about that Tottenham stuff, she knew exactly what the fallout would be if she did that. I mean, she may be a lot of things, but she certainly isn't stupid. And she would have been completely aware of how that would have gone down. She still went ahead and did it. So you've got to ask why. For whose benefit was it? Because it certainly wasn't ours. But it'd be interesting. It'll come out in the wash, no doubt, eventually.
Talking about sorry, Luke. Talking about.
Oh, go on, mate. Go on.
I was just going to say talking about possible change of ownership. Obviously, a few days ago, it seems like the Icelandics have finally sold their share of the club to an American, I believe it is. What do you make of that? Could that be leading to anything, or?
I think we need to know a bit more about it first of all. It's Trip Smith is the guy, isn't he? J. Albert Smith, and 10% share, which was formerly the property of or owned by Straumer. who got it after Goodmanson went bankrupt in 2008, whenever it was. So that's gone home. Now, we don't know. It could be that he's bought that 10% share with view to extending it in years to come. It could be that it's part of a larger portfolio that he's just taken on by default. If there was more involved, we don't know. It's very, very odd that the club have refused to even comment on it, not even mentioned it. I mean, you can look on the club website, as someone pointed out on the forum recently. You can go on there and there's 2 news stories about the guy who burgled or attempted to burgle the Sullivan household. You can't find anything on the club's website about the people who've just bought 10% of it. It's a crazy situation. Now, I spoke to the club a couple of days ago and tried to get some information to explain why this was the case. And I was given a not particularly convincing reply that said that the reason I hadn't mentioned it was because Mr. Smith didn't like the publicity. Now, I'm thinking here's a guy who's worth an absolute fortune. I wouldn't have thought publicity is really a concern of his. But so the bottom line is I don't know. I really don't know. I think I'm in the dark as in the dark as everyone else. Time will tell. But the fact that he's working with or comes from an asset stripping background is interesting. But no, we'll say. I can only assume it hasn't gone down too well in the boardroom, which is why they haven't announced it. But again, until we know exactly the reasons for it, we'll just have to speculate.
Just the last thing on the owners, Graeme. Do you think they will sell? Obviously they're talking about passing it down to the kids. It seems like Dave's probably not interested, but Jack obviously definitely is. But do you think they will sell up, or do you think it will end up being passed down? Obviously, just your opinion.
It's a tough one. I don't know. I mean, I've spoke to both of the boys, and they're both they're both quite intelligent lads. They've got their heads screwed on. Jack is obviously more. You had him on the show recently.
Yes,
didn't you? I think he was on the podcast. Jack's very, very enthusiastic about his football. Probably a bit more than Dave, who I think is more sort of he just wants to go and make a bit of cash in the world, not particularly bothered as much about football.
If I was a billionaire's son as well, I'd be doing the same, mate.
Well, I think I'd be stripping my old man's bank account.
Yeah, I think I'd be dead by the time I was 25.
But no, I think Jack definitely seems very interested. The fact that he's taken over the women's side, obviously, is giving him a bit of a grounding. Do I think they'll sell up? See, I always thought that they would get there for a few years and they would use the excuse of, here's a wealthy foreign benefactor who's promised. It's basically the same line that Terry Brown used all those years ago. I will never leave this club of my own volition. However, if someone comes in with the necessary finances to take us to that mystical next level, I'll happily step aside. And I think, to be fair, Sullivan of Gold have actually said this themselves in the past. That's how I've always seen it, that they will, one day they will sell out and it will be painted as for the benefit of the club rather than for the benefit of us two who are going to earn 500 million quid in the space of 5 years. But again, you don't know. I mean, are the two Gold daughters going to be really interested in football? I know they post quite a bit on social media about West Ham, but are they going to be interested in running the club? Are they going to be interested when there's 500 16, 17-year-olds screaming at them because they haven't bought a certain striker? Jack, I would imagine, has probably got quite thick skin because he's seen his dad go through it, and obviously they were involved at Birmingham where they were getting similar things happen. They were there was a lot of angry scenes I was involved in, so I don't think it's anything new. Whether or not the goal to, I don't know. So I'm again sitting on the fence, but I really don't know. I think they probably will sell one day, but a lot depends on really how the club does, where we go from now in the next few years, I think.
Yeah, I've never thought of it like that, actually. With the Gold side, like when obviously David's like well in his 80s now.
Yeah.
Like that's where the friction could come, obviously, when that's passed down to the daughters. Do the daughters really fancy it? They sell their share, and then will Jack fancy it still with another person owning that other sort of 30-odd%? That's where the friction could be, and that's why they would sell up potentially.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, if you've got a third party there with 10%, if you add that to the Gold share, then all of a sudden you'd become the biggest majority shareholder. So, it's interesting. There's lots of developments to come, I think, in that one, and it'll be worth watching in the months ahead.
Just before we preview October, I ask every person, because people know my opinions on him. What's your opinion on Mark Noble, Graeme? And where he lies
He's a lovely lad. Well, Mark Noble is West Ham, isn't he? This is the thing. Is in this day and age.
Let's talk football ability. Let's talk football.
Football. All right. Okay, you're going to pin me down to football ability
because that's thrown at me every week. Oh, he's such a lovely geezer.
Listen, just so you know, I'm always sticking up for Mark. I'm a fan of Mark.
I've never doubted the geezer's loyalty. I've never doubted the geezer's passion for the club. Let's talk football ability right here, right now.
So what you're asking me is, do I think he should be dropped, basically?
Yeah. Should he be playing every week now?
Okay. Or should he be in the squad at all? Okay. I think
there's a place for him in the squad.
Okay. You wouldn't sell him. He stays.
Yeah, he's a good
I definitely wouldn't sell him. I definitely wouldn't sell him.
I think he's found it difficult, hasn't he, the last couple of years? It's the thing is, the Premier League, it is one of the toughest leagues in the world. You've got to be an absolute superstar to play in this league. Mark's a great footballer, an absolutely fantastic footballer. Is he good enough to be in one of the 6 best teams in the world, or one of the best 8 or 9 club teams in the world? Which is what we're asking. If we want West Ham to finish sort of 6th, whatever, top 6, top 7, I don't know. I'm really loath to say anything negative about Mark Noble, because, as I say, in this day and age when it's, as I said, when I was a kid, we had loads of Lampard and Brooking, Bonds, all people like that, Devonshire. They'd come there and they'd be there forever. These days, how many people...
Were they better players than what Mark is, though?
Yeah, they were. Yeah, of course they were. But was Neil Orr a better player than Mark Noble? Probably not. But Neil had a good run in the side. He played in cup finals and was, integral to that side that nearly won the Division 1, as I say, in 85, 86. Other players like that, you didn't always have superstars in the team. You do, every team, you play football, you guys, that you need your grafters, you need, your hard workers as well as your flair players and players who can score goals. Mark gives you that. Is it enough? I don't know. It's one thing playing alongside Chet Chiati. I wonder if he'd been playing alongside William Carvalho, would anyone be sort of saying, is Mark a problem? You're kind of... You're limited in a sense.
Sheck's place is in that sometimes as well, Sheck, a few games recently, game just passes in by Chiati as well.
He's had a lot of stick, hasn't he? He's had a lot of stick on social media lately.
I think it's been deserved, though, because, again, to me, this goes back to the back end of last year. Yeah. When he was getting pushed about and he got played in right back a couple of games which you weren't happy about. But then when he was playing in defence, he seemed to do quite well. But then when he came out of defence and went back into that midfield, like you say, to me, the game just passed him by. He doesn't seem to be going on them marauding runs anymore.
No.
And if you watch him in the middle of the field, if a ball's played past him, he will stand there and watch it go past him.
Yeah. It's a funny one. It really is, because he was absolutely fantastic, wasn't he, when he came in for the first year? He looked brilliant. But yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the general lack of confidence in the team. Perhaps they haven't got 100% confidence in Bilic's tactics. I don't know, but either way, that doesn't stop a player, chasing the ball back. To cite the example you've just given.
Everyone looks a bit better. One last thing on Swansea, actually, just going back to it, was obviously we see Lanzini come back.
Yeah.
As soon as Lanzini come on, it was like the whole team just lifted. Like, oh, there's this guy that can actually pick a pass and move around a bit.
We've missed him, haven't we? We've certainly missed a player with that sort of creativity. Let's be honest, we've missed it since Payet went. We haven't had anyone in the side. I mean, Lanzini obviously does it now and again, but I think every team, all we want to see as fans is players that can excite you. Like Di Canio. I mean, you guys, obviously, that would have been your area, Di Canio, right? I suppose you would have been growing up, and he would have been your idol. Everyone's got to have one. I don't know if we have any heroes in this team anymore. Payet could have been a hero, and
he could have
been absolutely fantastic, but didn't want to be. So that's the way it is. But I don't know. Sort of going back to Chiati, I don't know. Is it a general malaise? I mean, if you remember, Chiati, he said something in the summer, didn't he, about leaving? There was a huge interview he did about his future not being sure, and you just seem to get an awful lot of noises like this coming out of the club at the moment. This certainly doesn't seem to be sort of harmony there. You know, from all the things, you've got Sacco obviously wanting to go, the whole Adrian and Randolph situation, etc. It's very, very strange. But again, it'll all come out in the wash eventually. But coming back to Mark Noble, no, I wouldn't sell him. I'd keep him, but I would probably use him a little bit more as a sub, I think.
Let's look at October. Obviously, there's no game this week because of the boring international breaks. I don't know why they bang it straight in like that in the season. Does me nothing. But there's quite a few tough ones, but there's two there that I would pick out as potential wins. Obviously, the next game is Burnley away. That is tough. There's no doubt about it because they are a very good side. They're a great side to watch as well. What did you make, Graeme, on that, Burnley?
Well, the first thing about Burnley is that they've been very, very strong, haven't they, at home? I think they've, they lost the first game home to West Brom, but since then they beat Palace, they've drawn with Huddersfield, but they don't seem to concede a lot of goals. I think they've conceded 2 goals in those 3 games at home. So, you know, they're defensively very, very efficient. Dyche has got them set up superbly. But I would be disappointed, to be fair, if we didn't come away from there with a win. I'd like to think we could go up there and snatch one again at the end, perhaps by the odd goal, 2-1 maybe, or 6-5, given the way our lot defend.
Brady's a good little player.
Who's that, sorry? Who?
Brady. I do like Brady. He's a good little player for them.
Yeah. They've got some decent players and they're coming on nicely. But it's one of those games, isn't it, that, you know, if you want to finish in the top half of the table, you've got to go and win at teams at places like that. So we'll see.
Moving on, we've got a nice 8 o'clock game on a Friday, Brighton. That should be a win, surely. They're not great. They've got a couple of half-decent players there, but that's another one we should be winning.
That's your. I think you'd have to say that's your banker, isn't it, for the season? Really, Brighton at home, newly promoted, not doing particularly well. If you don't win that, then you've got problems, I think.
Yeah, and then obviously, nice trip to Wembley for the Spurs game. We've been given 4,300 tickets, I've heard. That one. That's the one that I want. We need to win that game. We do. We need to go out and win that game. What do you think? What do you think, Graeme, Paul?
Yeah, as I've said many times before, when a West Ham Tottenham game, anything can happen. Anything can happen. Form goes out the window most of the time, and it's just one of them games that just lifts everybody. It lifts the fans. It seems to lift the players. It's one of them games. The closer we get to it, the more I think we're going to win. But yeah, it'd be lovely, wouldn't it?
I think we're going to win. Keeping Harry Kane quiet, that's the only problem. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you two. I think we'll go there and get a result. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see. I mean, they've obviously got this thing about playing at the stadium. You know, they're suffering the same issues that we had really last season at the Olympic Stadium. In that it's, you know, that great big space, they're new to it. So yeah, that gives us a bit of a bonus. But yeah, we always seem to do well over there. You know, in the cup, I think we've had a few decent results over there. I really wouldn't be surprised to see us go there and upset the apple cart.
At Wembley, West Ham fans are just going to treat that as a big, massive boys' day out, jolly up day out. The fans are just going to be electric that night. Them 4,000 that are lucky enough to get a ticket for that night. I fancy us. I really do fancy us for that game. Then I'm telling you what, it should be a banker game. The last game in October is Palace away. I'm telling you now, that is Palace's first win of the season. Palace's first win of the season, I'm telling you now.
How many times have we done that? How many times have we been, you know, beneficial to teams needing a win? So many times over the years. So often. No, we'll win that. We always win at Palace, don't we?
I don't know. Like you say, it's just one of them games. Yeah, you haven't won for a
while.
They
haven't scored a goal.
Yeah, they haven't even scored a goal, so they'll probably score 6 or something stupid like that.
I honestly can't say. I think of those 3 league games, Burnley, Brighton, Palace, I would be disappointed if we take less than 7 points, really, from that lot. Maybe 6. You know, the Burnley would probably be the more difficult one, but I think we'll beat Brighton. We have got a very good record at Palace, generally. So then, you know, again, it all comes down to what you expect or what you want out of your team. If you want a top half finish, you've got to be going to those 3 games. You've got to be taking an absolute minimum of 6 points, possibly a minimum of 7, ideally, 9. But as we know, as West Ham fans, it never ever goes that smoothly. Something will always, go wrong in one of those games. So I don't know. We'll wait and see which one. But no, I think you've got to be optimistic looking at October's fixtures. 4 very winnable games, I think. Not just 3. I think we can win all 4 of those. We won't, but we could.
With Spurs as well, I'm not 100%. I'm sure their Real Madrid game is sort of in their Champions Leagues like the week before or the week after, so they may be slightly cautious with that game. I'm not 100% when that fixture is, but there may be some caution around that game. But yeah, 7 points, got to be aiming for them sort of numbers. Next thing, just a few little silly ones before we do the questions. What do you make of the Christmas Eve games that have been announced? Apparently, we might be one of them. West Ham Newcastle might be one of the games at Christmas Eve. What do you make of that? A fan of that, or love your 3 o'clock on a Saturday?
Well, I mean, I've said this so many times in the past. I used to love football when it was 3 o'clock on a Saturday. You knew where you were every week. You knew, you could make plans in advance. It's an absolute travesty, if you ask me, that they're looking to play games.
I mean, let's come down as well.
Oh Christ! Can you imagine? But as I said recently on Twitter, when are we all going to do our Christmas shopping, fellas?
Straight over Westfield after.
Well, you're going to be, you're going to be on the metro going down, after Newcastle or whatever. I don't know. It's a nightmare. No. I mean, seriously, it's a bloody stupid idea. It's the Boxing Day is traditional.
Yeah.
You've only got to go back 40, 50, 60 years, and teams used to play on Christmas Day. I think occasionally it did happen, but no. I mean, come on, this is ridiculous. This is when people are getting off work. We're all getting home early. The players are people too. They've got families they want to spend Christmas. Do you really think they want to be travelling 300 miles up the A1, or before they get home to see the family? Of course they don't.
Young kids as well, isn't it? Like your Andy Carroll's got young kids and all that. Like it's that excitement of the day for the kids, isn't it?
Absolutely. No, it's a bloody stupid idea. But it doesn't surprise me at all. This is the Premier League. This is that it's all about greed, and it's all about what they can get out of it.
It's like you said earlier, mate. It's all these days. It's all money, and it's all Sky, BT. I mean, you're getting to the point now where there's pretty much football on 7 nights a week. You get 7 days a week. There's a game on. It's just madness. The bubble will burst. It will. It's going to happen eventually.
You just touched on a little bit, Graeme, as well about Boxing Day. Again, tradition. Boxing Day game at the London Stadium, if you believe what you read, that they've got to deal with Westfield, which is quite sad because I used to love the Boxing Day game.
Yeah, we haven't had many at home lately, have we?
Apparently, the rumour is that we're not allowed to have one anymore.
No, but I mean, even at the Bow.
Mate. Yeah,
When's the last Boxing Day game we had? I'm trying to think now. It's a few years back.
Because I used to go every year. It's like a tradition thing with my dad and that.
I suppose, for you would have been round the corner, right? It would only when you were a kid, you were too far away. You could have walked there. But
one of the best goals ever on Boxing Day as well. Trevor
don't tell me Sinclair. Yeah. Against Derby. Yeah. Cracking game. No, it is a shame, but I mean, it's like I say, it did used to happen. It's not a completely new phenomenon but it's just. There seems to be some sort of argument going on, I think, between the Premier League and the clubs. But I'm sure that if it will go ahead, I'm sure it will just happen. Again, the fans will be the last ones to be considered, as we always are. I remember a few years ago, we had one of the guys who works on KUMB, Gnome, Gordon. He travelled up to Newcastle for an away game. He booked the tickets and the training section for an away game Newcastle, and then it was literally days. I'm going back. I think this was the first day of the season, 2000, and it was the year we went down. So what was that, 02, 03? So 14, 15 years ago. It was literally days before the start of the season. They moved it from a Saturday to a Monday night, and so the report on KUMB wasn't from West Ham Newcastle. It was from something like Whitney Bay versus Billington or something like that, because that was the only game you could get to. On the Saturday, but it's been going on for years. But they really don't. I mean, unfortunately, supporters are always the last ones to be considered. And whether that will change, I don't know. But it's sad. It's sad. It is very much so.
Yeah. Last thing before we do the questions, mate. There was just a little rumour that was floating around today. Walcott apparently West Ham may go in for Walcott in January. Again, it's just a rumour. But what do you think of that? I'd have him.
I'll take him. We've been linked with him. We seem to be linked with him every other year.
Yeah. Apparently 18 months left on his contract. Maybe able to get him on the cheap.
Depends how cheap it is, doesn't it? I see, what was it, in the summer? In the summer, it was 50 million for him and Giroud, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, I'd definitely take him at West Ham. It's pace, someone to play on the right, seeing as we sold all our right-sided players. It might be an idea to bring somebody in. Yeah, I'll take him.
It's not got us back, no. What about you, Graeme? Walcott? Fan? Not a fan?
Yeah, he's all right. He's a decent player. Probably better than what we've got. Is he £30 million worth more than we've already got? I'm not sure. But I'm just trying to think back. How many players have we bought from Arsenal that have been successful over the years? Now, obviously, you've got Johnny Artson. And you've got
Johnny, yeah.
But we've bought a hell of a lot of rubbish from Arsenal. Now, I'm going back. I was only a baby at the time, but you might have heard of a guy called John Radford, who we bought from Arsenal in 1974-75, I think it was. He came here for a season, didn't score a single goal, and he left. I think it might have been Notts County he went to, and he scored a hat-trick on his debut for them, the first game of the next season. But I think traditionally we've had some rough old deals from Arsenal. I think was it Suka, wasn't it? Remember Davor Suka?
Suka, yeah. Marouane Chamakh.
Oh, Chamakh, Jesus. We've had a few goalies, haven't we, as well? Was it Lehman come on loan? But, we haven't really had an awful lot of success with players from them.
Yeah. Did we get Ian Wright from Arsenal, or was he somewhere else?
Wright, of course, come in. He had a good year, actually, didn't he, Wright? The first year he was quite prolific. But Winterburn, of course, come in and had a good year.
Who did we get Brady off of? Obviously, that's before
Liam Brady. Again, I'm having to revise exactly everything I've just said, I think, about Arsenal. All these players you're reading off. Liam Brady was fantastic for West Ham. Absolutely fantastic player.
Yeah.
So, basically, everyone we bought from Arsenal has been brilliant. Forget everything I've just said.
I only know him because he was one of my dad's favourites.
He was fantastic. He was a great player. Well, as I say, Winterburn was good for us for a year.
Oh, yeah, he was good.
He put in a good season. But I don't know. I don't know. I'm a bit meh about it, really, to be honest with you. I think, he's a good player, but,
One more then. What about Jack? Would you take Jack? Jack Wilshere? Big Hammers fan.
Big Hammers fan, but he's very, very injury prone, isn't he? And do we need anyone? I mean, for years and years we've been tagged with this injury, problem. I don't know what it is. It's like there's some sort of hex over at Chadwell Heath. I don't know, some sort of gypsy curse or something. I don't know. But we've just had injuries for years and years. I really think we should be avoiding players like that if at all possible. Yeah, he's a great player when he's fit, but if he's only playing 20 games a year, is it any good? We've got enough players like that, haven't we?
Yeah. All right, question time. Let's try and get through this in about 20 minutes, guys. I ain't got much time left. Okay, Hammers Poll, anyone who follows them on Twitter, they put out a really interesting question. I just wanted to see your guys' opinions on it, actually. It says, with our 3 youngsters currently out on loan and seemingly being considered to be failures, have we overhyped them?
Okay. Not necessarily. I don't know if we have. It's quite possible that they have been overhyped. It's not just us that have been banging on about Reece Oxford for a couple of years. Is it just the case that they're perhaps not as good as everyone thinks they are? I don't know. I mean, I have this argument time and time again with people on the forum when the first team's having a bad run of form, people start to look to the reserves and the kids and say, why isn't Oxford in? Why isn't so-and-so in playing in these positions? And I do think there is a tendency to kind of perhaps over-egg the pudding a little bit from our perspective when our own players aren't performing. The thing is, we know Reece Oxford can do it. He was 16 when he played at Highbury and he was absolutely brilliant that day. So we know he's got the ability. There seems to be some sort of question marks in terms of his attitude. Again, this is all rumours, so I'm only don't take this as gospel, but this is what people are saying. I'm sure you've read the same things.
I get the vibe with him a little bit.
I've seen that. Yeah, I'm not sure anyone's got a bit of rav about him because he was quite. He's gone to Mexico. I see this week. Anyway,
such a waste. Fantastic player.
Brilliant, absolutely fantastic, but didn't want to know. there you go. He'll wake up in 5-10 years and realise what he's wasted, I'd imagine. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But yeah.
Ken, if you want Slaven Bilic out now, do you want Slaven Bilic now? Who do you think we could get to replace him? And would they come? I would rather stay put and spend time finding a new man. So that he's saying, should we get a quick fix in, or should we sack him and have no one? Basically, I think
at the moment, I can understand, and I think that's probably exactly what is happening. I think that's exactly what's happening. I think the board know, unless some miracle happens and we end up finishing top 6, I think they know he's going to be gone at the end of the season, and that's probably what they are doing now. He's spending their time lining up a replacement. Whether I trust them to do that well is a completely different thing, but I'm guessing that's probably exactly what is happening.
Letting Bilic keep his job until the end of the season is proof that the board's ambition this season is not to get relegated again. Furthermore, if this form doesn't improve, isn't there a massive chance we could still get relegated with Bilic? Yeah. No? Massively risk.
Well, I suppose we're still sort of hovering around. I'd like to think there's not really a chance of us getting relegated this year, but of course anything can happen. We all know about Too Good to Go Down.
What do you think, Graeme?
Yeah, I don't think relegation is going to be an issue this year. I think we've got too much in the tank to worry about that, even though we've had a particularly poor start. So no, I don't think there's any real concern of that. But we said that last year, I think, and look what happened.
New Zealand Emma, one for you, Graeme. He says, what do you make, Graeme, of the new breed of West Ham fans? Just a bunch of moaners like the Gooners, or justified?
You see, I always say that if you're a West Ham fan, you're all right by me, which is a bit of a cop-out, really. But, I think we all want the same things. Who am I to sit here and have a go at other people who support West Ham? Do you know what I mean? Who is any of us to sit here? And if people want to go, they want to put their hand in the pocket and get behind the team, then, they're fine by me. People, is it a new breed of fan? Is it just a new generation? So people think differently. No, I mean, I have no issue with that. If they're there supporting West Ham, that's fine by me.
Yeah. Ryan, he says, what is our idea of formation and why? Like, what formation would we play if we could?
Well, shall I take this one?
Yeah.
Every week. So.
We're asked it every week, I think was what Luke said there.
Yeah. I think the best form, and we seem to work better, I think, with the fullbacks attacking, and we certainly look a lot stronger with 3, central defenders. So that would definitely seem to be the basis on which we need to look forward, I think, for now. But again, that gives you, that comes back to this whole issue about who you're going to play up front. Do you play Hernandez? Do you play Carroll? You can't really play both together in that if you're playing 5 at the back, or 3 with wing backs. So I would probably, Lanzini. Yes, you've got to have him sitting behind 2 wingers. I kind of like that. I think definitely the 5 at the back and 1 up front, and then take your pick of how you want to sort your midfielders out really from there. But I think that definitely looks better with the players and the personnel we've got at the moment. Anyway,
2 more. SB says, you guys, what is your favourite West Ham kit from the past? He gives us some of the best questions.
That's a good question, actually. I'll just think about that one for a minute.
For me, it's the Di Canio kit. The feeler one. The feeler Di Canio kit. Just because
the white one, or the...
No, the claret and blue. Claret and blue.
The white one of around the same time, which was white with the... Was it claret underneath, under the arm? Yeah. That was quite a nice kit.
Yeah. Was that the one with the darker blue sleeves, yeah?
Yeah, dark blue with a claret.
Yeah. That's right. I think I'm kind of with you on that, Lucas. Especially modern, the modern era. The feeder tops are absolutely fantastic. Of course, worn by an Italian. It just went beautifully, didn't it? My favourite kit would be the Adidas kit from 1980. I don't care if you pick the home or the away, but that was an absolute classic a design classic. It was just, so simple. And then probably I'd also choose the 76 Cup Winners' Cup shirt, which was the first time I think West Ham had a bespoke design in terms of kit, which was, you'll remember, the one with the V's, the claret V's at the top, which was a really unique and really distinct kit at the time. Now everyone has the same kit, don't they? It wasn't the case back then, So probably one of those three, I think.
Yeah,
I really like
for the the Bubbles kit as well.
Yeah, the centenary kit. Yeah, apart from the collar, it was an horrible collar on that.
Yeah, that was awful. Yeah, that was horrible, wasn't it? Yeah, that was the one that Dixie used to cut off, was it not?
That's it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's it. No, I do like a white kit. I really do. I really like our white Adidas one from a couple of years ago with a sort of pinstripes. Obviously, the classic with the hoops, lovely kit.
Yeah.
I actually think the Farewell Boleyn home kit was really nice as well. It was pretty simple. It was a pretty basic West Ham kit, but I think it worked really well.
Yeah, it's difficult. I think the problem is, again, going back to when I was a kid, you'd probably get a new kit every 4 or 5 years, maybe. When I was a very, very young, when I very first supported West Ham in the mid-70s, you couldn't get replica kits. The only place we would get kit was you'd have to go to Woolworths. Do you remember Woolworths?
Yeah.
Woolies, and they had their own range of Winfield, I think it was called, shirts, and you could buy the colours. It wasn't an actual replica, but that was the only way you could get one, and it was only in sort of, when was it, 76, 77? Wasn't it Admiral, I think, who had the first idea of putting in replica shirts, and it kind of went from there. Again, that's a fairly modern thing, but. I'll tell you the other one I also like. Was it 91, 92 where we had, do you remember the Argentina away shirt?
Yeah.
The white shirt with the light blue stripes. That was really quite nice.
That was nice, yeah.
That wasn't a bad kit. But yeah, it's different these days. I'm wedging out 80, 90 quid a year, I think, for my son who's 9 now, for his new kit. They charge you get charged like a tenner for the Premier League badge. Yeah. 30 quid a letter or whatever it is, and you pay for the numbers as well. It's a bit of a squeeze, and they ask you every year. But some definitely had some classics over these. And sorry, just going back there, you were talking about the white kit. I mean, I seem to remember us wearing a completely all white kit a few times in the 70s. I think if you look at the Arsenal game, was it the quarter final of the cup where we won at Highbury in 75? I think we're wearing an all white kit that day, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, that's they always look good. Yeah. But here's one for you. Just before we move off kits. Home kit: white socks or claret socks?
White, for me.
Yeah, white. Yeah.
Good. We're in agreement.
Is that the right answer? Is it? Is that the right answer?
No, that one's always been a bit of a bugbear of mine, and I always think we look best in the white shorts and white socks. Yeah. So I'm glad to hear you agree.
Last question. It's direct to Graeme. It's a guy called Gary. A bit of a controversial question, actually. It says, what is his opinion on In the Nose? Obviously, we've had a couple of shows with X and people like that. What is your opinion on In the Nose? Like, are they beneficial or are they just doing their job? What's your opinion, Graeme?
I think it's... I'm a little bit biased because if it wasn't for our ITKs on KUMB, we probably wouldn't be as busy as we are. I mean,
you have one of the most famous ones, obviously, Jinxed.
Jinxed, yeah, he's a good lad. Yeah, he's our current ITK, one of them anyway. But I mean, we've got some great stories about. We've had ITKs from the most bizarre of places. I mean, the first one we ever did was. I think it was when it was 2000, I think it was, and it was when we signed Titi Kamara from Liverpool. Now, Harry Redknapp was never one to keep his cards close to his chest. I'm sure he hasn't changed over the years, but he was happily telling one of our readers on a Saturday morning before a game that he just signed Titi Kamara, and obviously there was nothing, out on the web or in the media at the time. So that was our first real scoop in terms of. ITK-ness. And then I think one of my favourite stories is one of the guys that used to work on the site was a plumber in his day job, and he was doing some work for a guy called Ray Lewington, who you may know as the former England co-manager. I think he was with Hodgson, wasn't he? Palace, yeah. But at the time he was with his son Dean at Wimbledon, and now. my mate tells the story that he was doing some work and Lewington come in one day and they were just talking and Lewington said to him, "You're a West Ham fan, aren't you?" And our guy was like, yeah, it's I'm season ticket holder and all that. And he said, well, that's funny that. He said, because we've just sold 2 players to West Ham. And it turned out we'd bought Nigel Rio-Coker and Adam Noland.
All right.
And again, that was a scoop. It was the most bizarre place to get get a bit of ITK news from a plumber. But that's how it works. And over the years, we've had information coming from all kinds of different people and areas. So I absolutely love it. I think that websites such as KUMB thrive on inside information. So yeah, I'm absolutely all for it. Yeah, definitely.
Like I say, it's only Lee on this channel that don't like him.
Okay. Well, that's a good start. No, I think they have their worth. As long as they're not being detrimental to the club. If they're putting things out there that can affect the club, perhaps if they're putting out news of a deal that hasn't been done or something like that, then maybe not so. But generally speaking, I think most of it's done in the with the right intentions. I know X gets an awful lot of stick for some of the stuff he puts out, but that is the nature of the beast, and I'm sure you fellas are the same. You as soon as you put your neck above the parapet, then you're going to get attacked. You always get that. I'm sure you get that from comments in your section.
I get from Mark Noble and stuff.
But it's we actually, like Luke says, we had X on the podcast, and we said that exact same thing to him, because like about that, when you put yourself on that platform, like you say, mate, same as us. When we put ourselves on this platform, you put yourself out there. You got to expect not everyone's going to agree with you. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, I often joke and say there's not a day that goes by where I'm not being called this or that by someone for having the temerity to sort of offer an opinion on Twitter or even just post a story that some people might take umbrage to. It's just that's part of the course. It just goes with the territory, and you've either got to get used to it or duck out. That's the way it is, unfortunately.
Last question, mate. It's going to be from me actually, just because it's just come in my head. Who would be the dream person you'd love to interview? West Ham related, whatever, sport related, it could be anyone. Who would be your dream person you'd love to interview?
That is a huge question. In terms of West Ham, I think I've been very fortunate and managed to speak to most of the people that I wanted to. If there was one I could that we haven't already, I'd love to speak to Vic Watson posthumously and ask him about his 350 goals for West Ham and how he managed to do it, because no one's ever going to get close to that again. And he's a bit of a forgotten character in our history, sadly. Or Ron Greenwood, perhaps, something like that. But today, modern and living West Ham, I'll tell you who I would like to sit down and talk to, actually. I think Savio would be an interesting conversation. Yeah. And just asking why.
Yeah.
What happened? What happened to your career? Why did it end up the way it did? I think he's playing in Division 4 of the German league now, isn't he, or something ludicrous like that. It's a fascinating story, and I'd love to know exactly what went on there. So yeah, perhaps Savio or someone like that. You wasn't expecting that, were you? There you go.
My dream.
Who would be your dream, Luke? Sorry.
Yeah, my dream guest would be Ray Winston. Love to get him on. Be a funny one to have as well, just to have him on. But yeah, that is it for this week. Graeme, absolute pleasure to have you on, mate. A big thank you for coming on. Obviously, massive West Ham site. Inspiration to people like me and Paul to get to your level. Hopefully, one day even half your level would be amazing.
Thanks for having me on. It's been a pleasure talking to you both.
Yeah, no, it really is. Thank you very much for coming on. Like I say, obviously, guys, if you haven't, where have you been? But if you haven't checked out KUMB.com, get on there. Like I say, genuinely, I'm on there literally every single day. It's the first place I go to for West Ham news. So if you haven't checked it out, get over there and have a look. It's a fantastic site, really good community as well.
Who do you guys post as? So is your new followers know to look out for?
Free Hammers, is it?
Free Hammers. I'll be honest, it's genuinely pretty much me who's on there. If you ever go on the site, you'll see I'm always one of the names logged in. Don't post too much, but I'm always there reading.
Good stuff. Well, I'll say hello next time I see you.
Good stuff.
So that is it for this week. As I say, big thank you to Graeme. It's always great seeing Paul. If you've not seen on Twitter, guys, we've launched a shirt competition just for Christmas. You know, you can have your pick of the home, away, or the third kit just to celebrate for Christmas. All you have to do is subscribe to the channel and like the tweet. That is it. We won't be back next week because it's an international break, so we're going to have a week off. But until then, guys, come on your irons, keep believing. Let's go.
Cheers.
Cheers.